Tonight on News 5 Live, Nigel Patillo is arrested and charged after meeting with residents of Cotton Tree Village and other areas over land acquisition. His attorney, Arthur Saldivar, is also arraigned for violating the state of emergency. Is there a deal between the PSU and the government on the word defer in respect of increments? A police officer is manhandled by his own for allegedly drunk driving and assaulting SPU boss Aaron Gamboa. More than a month free of COVID-19 cases, restaurants welcome diners as quarantine measures are eased. It will show you the images of the destruction of tracts of the Vaca forest by fires, and a boat accident in San Pedro that left 2 persons, including the boat captain, injured. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast.
Smart está totalmente
Welcome to News 5 Live from Monday, May 18th. I am Marlene Cuellar. It's day 35 since Belize has recorded a positive case of COVID-19. But the Ministry of Health remains on alert as border communities in neighboring Central American countries continue spiking. At this time, up north in Mexico, there are 49,219 confirmed cases, with 5,177 deaths. Meanwhile, in Guatemala, there are 1,912 cases and 35 deaths recorded. Meanwhile, here in Belize, there were 18 cases, which included 2 deaths. There are still some persons under investigation, which the Director of Health Services says are being monitored. Today we spoke with Dr. Marvin Manzanero via phone, and he says that they are being vigilant and continuing with random testing.
We are now at day 35 without any case. That's when we last documented our last 3 cases. We have nonetheless continued to do random testing. We did tests last week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. But we are particularly concerned with the growing numbers that are in neighboring Guatemala, Honduras, and Mexico, as is the entire Mesoamerican region continues to report escalating number of cases. And the only 2 countries that seem to not be having escalated numbers are Costa Rica and Nicaragua. So we are particularly vigilant for those numbers in our neighboring countries.
Okay, sir, are there any under investigation?
Well, we are labeling under the process of the investigation anybody that we are taking out of the random sampling, and all those people that are being caught illegally crossing the border who may be swabbed at random as well. So that's sort of the people on the investigation. And of course, anybody who shows up with any influenza-like illness is being treated as a potential suspect as well.
Tune in to Open Your Eyes on Tuesday as Dr. Manzanero will provide an update on the COVID-19 situation in Belize. Restaurants resumed on-premises dining on Saturday, but the hospitality industry is looking a whole lot different. The use of the face mask by diners and employees is a must, and so is the practice of social distancing. On Saturday, the first day of the resumption of business, some were not yet ready to transition to the new norms, while at others who had jumped in, there was a trickle of guests. News 5's Dwayne Moody took a look around the city to find out how the restaurants are attempting to reduce the risk of the new coronavirus and keeping customers safe.
Statutory Instrument Number 72 allows for alfresco dining and for residents to access pools at hotels, as well as their favorite swimming spots. So over the weekend, residents took advantage of the opportunity and went to beaches, rivers, and the Split in Key-Cocker, as well as across the country. While the numbers were not huge, given the state of emergency, it was a change for many who were previously unable to due to the restrictions.
Now they will be allowed to use the pool and dine on an outdoor setting, which also for us Belizeans make it romantic, and I'm looking forward for Belizeans to look forward and patronizing our local establishments.
Several restaurants that are in enclosed areas have had to continue with only doing delivery or takeout services, while others that have some open space or outside deck component are making good of that facility to provide an outside dining experience outside of the curfew hours, of course, which remains in place from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. daily. While some Belizeans were out at these establishments as early as Saturday, most of these restaurants officially started that service today.
We're in a good position where we have a lot of space, a lot of open space, and so we can put tables out in the yard, we could expand a little, we can be safe. We were trying to get up and running fully for today, Saturday, but because of all the measures that we want to make sure that we're safe for our customers, it's best that we do it on Monday so we can make the adjustments and be good to go by 10:30 Monday morning.
Celebrity Restaurant on Marine Parade has also made adjustments and is now offering an outdoor dining experience to complement its 2 office menus for takeout. It also does delivery. According to Maria Manzanero, they have started the transformation of the outdoor facility while still providing the quality food that its customers enjoy.
It's a drastic change, I have to say, but we're trying to do our best when it comes to the restaurant itself. We are trying to provide for our customers. It's been almost 17 years this restaurant has been open. And we have a lot of loyal customers. So for our customers, we are trying to do our best when it comes to us serving what the people like. So for now, what we are trying to do is open this outside part. As you can see, we have our tables outside. We're trying to do our best to make people comfortable because, as you know, it's very hot.
But even as these restaurants and pools are now allowed to be open to the public, residents must still adhere to certain physical distancing rules, and persons must remove masks only when swimming or eating.
We know that Regulation 672 do give more relaxation to our Belizean populace. And again, I know that the waterways was one of the major concerns for people, especially knowing the current climate situation we're having, where it's extremely hot. So now our Belizean people can now be comforted that they can now go to the waterways and enjoy it. But while you can enjoy it, there is still some restrictions that goes along with it. And some of those restrictions are that, one, you cannot have no kind of social activity alongside the waterway, which means you can't carry beer and go barbecue on the beach side or the river bank. You cannot do that. If it is that you are going to be in the sea or river or lagoon, you must maintain social distance from any other group that is not a part of your group. And once you're in the water or you're going into the water, you can take off your mask, and once you come out, you put on back your mask.
Restaurants have also put in place sanitation stations where patrons can wash their hands and use sanitizers before entering the properties.
When you walk into Birds Isle now, at the beginning there's a wash station there. We do ask that our customers please wash their hands before they enter into our facilities. As well, wear a mask fully covering the face. We have to do what we need to do to protect each other. And then we'll have the tables fully spaced out under the requirements that you need to be at least 6 feet apart.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
And while some restaurants were able to begin to operate over the weekend, there is another category of restaurant-style business that will have to adapt to the regulations. According to the Attorney General Michael Parafit, business establishments that possess a restaurant license were allowed to operate, but those which possess a public and special license have to sell food to be able to resume service. Statutory Instrument 782 was amended to allow for these types of businesses to operate, as explained by the Attorney General in Ask the Experts today.
There is a particular type of license called a public and special license. The public and special license allows you to do exactly what a restaurant does. You serve food, you get liquor with the food, but the unique feature of a public and special license is you can go to that place and just drink and not eat no food, none at all.
So they can operate as a bar.
They operate as a bar and a restaurant combined. Those places could not open over the weekend or could not open as of Friday, because then they are not, strictly speaking, restaurants. They are more bars who happen to serve food on the side. Restaurants serve food mainly with liquor on the side. Bars, like public and special places, serve liquor with leave food on the side. The law has been amended to say this: if you hold a public and special license, you will be able to open, but you must operate as if though you are a restaurant. So even though you can open and you have a public and special, for now, you can only serve your liquor with food. So if you had a public and special license and you not made to serve food none at all, you need to start to serve food now, or you have to remain closed.
A crowd of persons showed up at mile 44 on the George Price Highway on Sunday, lured by the promise of a piece of land. Nigel Petillo of the Belize Youth Grassroots Empowerment Organization is attempting a repeat of the Harmonyville community, where he successfully took over acres of land and parceled it out to first-time landowners. Hundreds turned out, and a long line of vehicles parked along the stretch of the highway near Cotton Tree, where some 2,500 acres of abandoned land had been identified. But there is a state of emergency, and mass gatherings are not allowed. Police soon arrived, and the crowd was dispersed. Later, Petillo and his attorney, Arthur Saldivar, were picked up, and this morning they were taken to court in Belmopan. Here's News 5's Isani Cayetano.
Call it an illegal gathering because poor people are registered in frustration policy, so you call illegal gathering? We're a bunch of voters, poor people are registered in frustration. How is that illegal gathering? Yeah, you know what? The elites, they're up on the beach right now. All right. Yep. The elites, then they swim, then they gather. Where the police there?
Nigel Petillo, a well-known activist and founding member of Belize Grassroots Youth Empowerment Association, joins the list of persons who have been charged for offenses under the state of emergency. On Sunday, the president of Big A was in Cotton Tree Village, where he met with dozens of residents and many others from across the country who are interested in acquiring parcels of unused land along the George Price Highway. In the process, he is said to have violated regulations that fall within the existing SOE.
This land turned out to be a parcel of land like many other parcels of land throughout this country that has been neglected by its owner. This land, the taxes on this land haven't been paid for quite some time. The people of the community have been settling the land, and information reached to me is that the government have been issuing parcels of the said land already out to other people, no?
It's a tract of land covering 2,500 acres, which was reportedly the property of an Asian landowner who passed away without leaving it as an inheritance. Since then, the acreage has been designated for agricultural use.
The villagers at Cotton Tree contacted me and brought it to my attention that this land there for quite some time, actually the government labeled it as a Cotton Tree agricultural layout, yet no resident of Cotton Tree Village own a piece of land in an agricultural layout.
According to Petillo, a number of persons turned out for the outdoor meeting, including the police department, whose officers were called out to maintain law and order during the event.
We came out to discuss. We invited everybody countrywide. We asked the government to come out to make we discuss. We asked the area reps to come out to make we discuss. I called upon the Prime Minister. I even asked the police to come out so that they can maintain law and order. It turned out that we never feel to go. I never in the mood to go swim yesterday. But yet if I want to go swim yesterday, it would have been quite fine. Wear your face mask, go swim, no bigger crowd than 10. We made adhere to the rules and regulations. The government sent the police out there. The police came out there and did what they were told to do. Disperse the crowd, lock up Arthur, lock up Nigel, and that was the response from our government. That was the response from the people that we voting over.
Petillo says that he left and went home to Harmonyville, where he was later arrested by a team of officers. A call was immediately placed to attorney Arthur Saldivar, who showed up on the scene.
It started about 9:45 yesterday morning. I received a call from a family member of Mr. Petillo, who requested that I go to mile 44 because there was a belief that Mr. Petillo was in police custody there. So I proceeded to go to mile 44. When I got there, I approached Superintendent Carcamo and asked him for my client. He told me that he didn't see my client, and I was in the process of leaving when I got another call saying to proceed by a piece of heavy equipment. I went in that direction and I located my client and we walked out.
Saldivar says he saw to it that Petillo got home without incident before proceeding to his home. Sometime later, he received a second call informing him that his client was in police custody in Belmopan. Again, Saldivar went to Petillo's aid, unbeknownst to him that he too would be charged for an offense under the SOE.
Upon arriving at the police station, I got off my motorcycle, which I was riding at the time, and going into the station, I was run upon by Superintendent Carcamo, who told me that between the vehicle that I exited and the parking and the entrance to the station that I was not wearing my mask. Now I was in the process of putting the mask on before entering the station. But apparently I was told at that point that I had already violated the law.
And so he too was taken into custody and charged for not wearing a mask.
The charge is bogus. Apart from that, while at the station, while looking after the interests of my client, I was informed that I would also be charged for unable to provide reasonable explanation or excuse for being in public after curfew hours. Well, I was never asked any question by law enforcement why I was there. But then again, as an attorney at law, I have a legal duty to safeguard the interests of my client. And where I'm called upon to safeguard those rights as they pertain to being in police custody outside of a police station, that is his constitutional right.
This morning, Attorney Arthur Saldivar and his client Nigel Petillo appeared before the Magistrates Court in Belmopan, where they were both read charges related to violations under the state of emergency. Reporting for News 5, I am Isana Cayetano.
So while Petillo and his attorney were both arraigned this morning for matters having to do with social distancing, use of face masks, and movement outside of the curfew, their brief time in the holding cell at the Belmopan police station contravened all of those stipulations. According to the men, they were placed in a very small lockup with several other persons, and clearly the congestion inside the cell made it impossible for them to adhere to the required 6 feet rule.
They bring me in, process we, they held us there for about, I believe, about 4 or 5 hours there about. Man, and whole we now, my cell there 6 by 6 there about, with about 6 men in there. By the way, the other man they never wear no mask. The police department never find it as if it board plans to provide masks for them people. That way out. Again, you know, the talk one thing out of then. So you should make sure you provide masks for everybody in our cell. Again, with about 6 away in our cell, there's no way we could have maintained social distancing.
This attack, and I classify it as such, an attack, is not only a personal one on me, Arthur Saldivar, but one on the legal profession itself. One that cannot be countenanced in a democratic country governed by the rule of law. Because irrespective of the state of emergency, it is incumbent upon the authorities to ensure that the rights of the citizen is maintained. One of those rights is the right to a legal practitioner of his choice whenever apprehended and detained by those very same authorities. I mean, come on.
This is the second offense under the state of emergency for which Arthur Saldivar has been charged. He was previously arraigned on March 30th for spreading false news in respect of COVID-19. Coming up, no word yet if there is an agreement between the unions and the government. While there has been no official word on whether a deal has been reached, the Public Service Union has re-examined its view of the use of the word defer in respect of an agreement with the government of Belize where increments for public officers are concerned. The original use of the word, as it appeared in a document finalizing a new arrangement on Friday, was a sticking point for the Belize National Teachers Union, whose position on allowances for teachers was the use of the word defer. This morning, PSU Vice President Dean Flowers also said that a committee will be formed to look at ways in which government can cut costs going forward.
We have since reconsidered our position where the use of the word defer is concerned, and we've said, look, the general content of the agreement is what is important, and the meat of this agreement will be hashed out going forward with us doing what we need to do to ensure that this economy rebounds and that government changes its policy where the current wastage and, if I can say, reckless spending in the public service is concerned. So the Prime Minister was very welcoming of the initial cost savings measures that we have proposed. He readily said that he has looked at them and he's in agreement that some of them are good to go. He has asked that we look at putting together a committee which will comprise of both the union and official side, and that the details and implementation of those, and also more importantly, the monitoring of those over the short, medium, and long term can be hashed out. And for me, that's a win.
According to Flowers, a formula will be devised to calculate what each public officer will receive in gratuity at the point of retirement, which will also factor in what they would have received were this increment to have been included. The use of the term defer, he says, was for simplicity.
In our view, we knew we wouldn't be getting the increment, and that the situation would have been revisited at the point of retirement. So where the confusion lies.
So you're saying in the meeting, you agreed to use the wording defer, which
Yes.
means not now, but later.
Yeah.
And instead the document came back saying forego, which means not now and never.
Yes, and so, but the catch within the document is that the government is prepared to revisit the situation if and when the economy rebounds. So in essence, that puts us on good footing that, look, we could get back this increment within 5 years, within maybe less. We don't know. What needs to happen is that we need to do what we need to do to be able to either get back this increment or get a higher increase, because it may be that our insistence on improving the efficiency within the public service may yield considerable savings and may yield higher revenues for government. And by the grace of God, hopefully, we'll be in a better position in years to come.
Friends for Conservation and Development, FCD, has been battling for the preservation and conservation of Belize's forests to the west for many years. For the past few weeks, the environmental group has been challenged with its latest foe, forest fires. Large portions of the Vaca and Chiquibo forests were destroyed by rampant fire. It also killed animals and destroyed habitats. It is believed that the fire in the Vaca was started by a Guatemalan farmer. The effects can still be seen, and FCD board member and photographer Tony Rath captured the damage in a dramatic fashion. Armed with his lens and camera and accompanied by FCD's executive director Rafael Manzanero and rangers, Rath journeyed to the Vaca Forest Reserve, where he saw the devastation from a different perspective. Through his photographs, Rath captured the evidence left by Guatemalan encroachers and follows the story of one particular Guatemalan farmer who was arrested inside Belize.
when FCD first encountered him, they secured him first of all, and then they interrogated him. And he did mention that he knew he was in Belize, and he really had no choice. I mentioned all this in the article. He had no choice because most of the land around his farm, his village, had already been taken over by other farmers or by cattle ranching. He had felt that sense right maybe half a mile from where he's chopping. There was a cattle farm in Belize. He felt like it was okay for him to be there. And basically he said he needed to farm to support his family. The thing that really got me the most was that a lot of the forest had fallen from the fire. It had burnt so hot and so complete that all you found were rivers of white ash, and it almost looked like snow. And the forest was still collapsing because we'd hear trees falling. Normally you might hear a tree fall once a day or so, but we were hearing trees falling every half hour. And that's because the fire was burning at the base of the trees, and eventually burned through and would continue killing trees as the fire burned through.
FCD has had to take up the responsibility of arresting encroachers and manning the forest to keep it from disappearing. In his article, Rath asks the question, where is our BDF? He points out that FCD is not a security organization.
For some reason, I'm not quite sure why, they seem to be holding our western border on their own. We do have military at the command posts, but the military, and this is backed up by data, the military that are staying at the command post for 2 weeks at a time should be doing at least 12 days of patrols. And they've been averaging probably 20% of that due to, well, they put in excuses such as admin, recuperation, different excuses why they're not going on patrols. And I think what it boils down to is lack of training, lack of equipment, lack of motivation, very poor morale. But they're there, the military is there, they're just not patrolling. And so FCD needs to patrol. And I mean, I have to be a little bit careful because nobody wants to talk bad about our BDF and our boys in the BDF. I'm not actually talking bad about the boys in the BDF. I think it goes higher than that because I was in the military, and I know that what you see in the ground troops reflects what's leading them.
As you heard earlier in the news, Nigel Petillo and his attorney Arthur Saldivar have been charged with state of emergency violations, including a charge for not wearing a mask in public. The two were taken to court today. Now, 7 News director Jules Vasquez is coming under fire from the public since he was seen last Thursday covering a demonstration without a mask, as is required by the state of emergency regulations. Vasquez and other reporters were covering an illegal protest on Coney Drive, and while the other reporters and the protesters were wearing a face mask, Vasquez was not. That was caught on camera, and since then the public has been asking if Vasquez was receiving preferential treatment. Today, Commissioner of Police Chester Williams addressed the matter on Ask the Experts.
The commissioner was not out there on that morning in question when Jules Vasquez was seen without a mask on. I am one man, I can be at one place at a time, and I was not out there. I rely on the officers below me to discharge their functions as police officers. Upon seeing the video, I questioned the officers who were working out there to ascertain from them what had happened. And from the explanation I got was that the officers were busy dealing with Raymond Rivers, who was behaving away, and they did not see Jules until a little while after. And I spoke particularly to the officer who was in charge, Superintendent Chan. And Chan said to me that upon seeing Jules Vasquez without the mask, he approached Jules Vasquez and said to him that he was not wearing a mask. Jules Vasquez immediately apologized to him, saying that he just ran out of the vehicle, forgetting that he did not have on the mask. And quickly Jules went, get the mask from his vehicle and put it on. If the officer accepts Jules Vasquez's explanation and exercise his discretion not to charge Jules Vasquez based on his explanation, then I personally don't see nothing wrong with that.
The government is making provisions to allow Belizeans in other countries who have been displaced by the COVID-19 pandemic to return home by the end of May. The COVID-19 controlled repatriation for displaced Belizeans abroad is asking for Belizeans to first seek the approval of the government before returning to the country. As of today, displaced Belizeans can visit the COVID-19 website and complete the application form and screening applications. Once the applications are completed and approved, the government will then give the go-ahead for Belizeans to book their travel. One Belizean who is eager to return home is Helen Adolphus, who's been stuck in Merida for almost 3 months along with her child and boyfriend. They're running low on cash, and as COVID-19 cases continue to spike in Quintana Roo, Adolphus is hoping to be back home by the end of the month.
Well, I was a little confused because I kept hearing that the borders won't be closed for Belize, and it wasn't closed as yet. And when my boyfriend came back from a race that he went to, he came back around the 21st of March. And then we searched on Facebook and we found that the borders were closed the 20th of March. It's been a little rough because if you go out, you have to, well, we try to be careful about what we touch, what we do, because, how to say, I'm really scared about it. They said that it could be in the air, you could get it. Things that people touch, you could get it. And I'm just worried about my family.
How soon would you want to return home?
At least by the end of this month or the beginning of June. My concern is that being here, it's, first of all, we don't have a job because we don't have a working permit. Second, we have no kind of financial help. We used everything we had. And I'm scared about my daughter's health.
After the break, a cop is accused of drunk driving and is charged with harming a senior officer. There was a scuffle on Saturday night involving a team of police officers attempting to arrest a colleague who was reportedly drunk and acting unruly while being apprehended. The incident happened just outside of Camelote Village, where Mark Rodriguez was seen driving recklessly along the George Price Highway. According to Assistant Superintendent Aaron Gamboa, who is the officer commanding the Special Patrol Unit, he observed the vehicle swerving dangerously across the stretch of road, and when he set chase behind it, discovered that it was a fellow officer. Gamboa says he attempted to escort Rodriguez home in order to ensure his safety, but upon arriving at his residence, Rodriguez refused to hand over the keys to the vehicle and became violent.
About sometime leave like 7, 5 past 7. And Saturday, I was on the Western Highway in front of me in Lars resident. I saw a vehicle coming from like Kayo side towards into Beropan, right? When I see this vehicle coming from left to right, going from left to right, so they got some concerned citizens, so they had to holler, Mr. Officer, we do that and thing. So I said, okay, jump in my vehicle, same government vehicle. I jump and I about 200 yards away from my house. I try to chase it. Before I stop it, like a civilian, I really stop it, and was really never happy about the situation. So I come out to my vehicle and tell the person that I will deal with the situation. Don't worry, I will deal with it. I'm an officer. He know me. He said, anyway, Mr. Gamma, please deal with it, sir. So I come out, ask the officer, yes, officer. He come to me. Yes, I tell her, what happened, man? I tell you, a police officer. You can go down and you smell strong aroma alcohol out the boat, you know? And I tell her, man, this can happen. This could never happen. I will deal it fair. I will be fair with you. I say, okay, I will call a driver, and I will come and get the vehicle. I will take it to your house, and you will give me this key, and I will get this key. I will get till in the morning about 8 o'clock. I will use it, right? You will get this key back. He agreed. He said, no, but yes, he's stuck in. So I sent for Gamboa Jr. to come and drive with him along. He jumped in the vehicle. He asked me, sir, can you please stop by the Chinese truck and buy a cigarette? I even do that as I do, but the Chinese never make me close. So I said, okay, close, just follow me. And but not far away, from about 200 yards away, 300 yards away. He lives from me, he's like a neighbor, so I know him very good. So I park in the yard, my son park in the yard. I tell him, okay, lock up the vehicle, give me the key. When Gamboa Jr., a police officer, give me the key, he started to take off his shirt. All of a sudden, now everything turned around. He started to knock his shirt and started to curse me up, bad word, big bad word. I don't want to say it on the media, right? But I have video to show you. What all right? And then on Friday say, nobody can care for you, about this effing truck and this car and this and that. I said to myself, you know, instead of having some names, well, I don't worry about that. So I say, okay, good. I'm not going no further. I say I'm heading to the Warrenky police station. So I make a call while on the way. I make a call to Mr. H. O.C. Beropan. So explain to him. He said, okay, go to Beropan, go to Warrenky station and go and get 2 officers because I want to be fair, I want to be biased. Because I can use SP if I want, but I said no. I want to make sure I be more professional, right? And diplomatic kind of way, right? So I went to the station and I meet Corporal Warrior, Warrenky Police, and PC Belay. He's from Camelote, so he know the person. So we dropped in the vehicle and then we went to his residence. So when we come out of the vehicle now, I tell him, I need to see you, sir. He fly at me, so for assault me. When he assault me, then the police grab her. When the police grab her, we have to use force for him because he started to fight. 4 ways, started to fight. Big struggling to try to subdue him to put on in handcuff because that's the only way we can do it, right? And then while we doing that, he just threw a hand and bam, knocked me in my mouth.
Today, Rodriguez, who has a different version, was taken to court in Belmopan and charged with harm. There was another accident, but this one at sea. 2 persons were injured during a boat accident on Sunday evening in San Pedro. After 6 o'clock on Sunday, police were called out to the San Pedro International Marine Terminal on the lagoon side, where a 25-feet Mexican lanchon boat had crashed into the wooden wharf at the terminal. Boat captain Horace Bladen was driving the vessel, named Jackson Nicholas, and registered to Serious Adventures Tours of San Pedro town, when he lost control of the boat, which collided into the wooden wharf. The impact caused the passengers on board to be thrown overboard and into the lagoon. Also on the boat with Bladen were Sandra McLean Leslie, Roy Bradley, Jose Lopez, and Celestino Campos. Bladen received abrasions to the right side of the face and a swollen left forearm, whilst Bradley suffered a cut wound on the top of the head and an abrasion below the right eye. The other 3 persons were unhurt. The value of the damage caused to the pair is unknown at this time, and an assessment is pending. Statements have been recorded and urine sample obtained from Bladen, who has since been served with a notice of intended prosecution. A Port Authority personnel has since inspected the scene. A road traffic mishap along the George Price Highway just outside of Mahogany Heights has left a pair of men, both employees of the Ministry of Works, critically injured. Sometime after 1 o'clock this afternoon, a pickup truck traveling towards Belmopan rounded the curve near miles 30 and 31 when the driver lost control of the vehicle. The pickup careened off the road at high speed before landing in a ditch a few hundred feet away. Both men were seriously injured and had to be extricated from the vehicle by passers-by.
The bus stop by Sunny there, we see the truck on the curve, but they run way up on the side where the sun there, and then it cross. I don't know how you get across the road and end up down there. So only that we see when it swerve and come over here. When we run by here, down there, so in the ditch there.
Now, what was the immediate response from anybody in the area who also saw what happened?
2 Spanish ladies run cough out of the yard by where we made there. And then they run and they go by there. Well, I made it up here, I never know how long they stand.
Did anyone else come to render assistance to get the driver out?
As people stop and call help, that's why they get machete and chop the bush and take the man out of the vehicle.
Now, I understand as well that several attempts have been made to call 911 for them to dispatch an ambulance here.
Yeah, we call the Mahogany Heights police, the back there, and then they said they call for Hattieville, but they just reached out just now.
Based on what you saw, can you perhaps describe the extent of the injuries of at least the person who is the passenger in the vehicle?
Only the man where they sit down on the side, they so look like he in pain, must be shoulder or some way, must be broke. I know I'm to the next one where they take out of the vehicle, the bottom there.
A delivery man from Atlantic Restaurant on the Philip Golson Highway escaped with his life on Sunday afternoon after the motorcycle he was traveling on suddenly combusted. Robert Thomas was making a food delivery and had just left the restaurant. When he was near the vicinity of DK's supermarket, the motorcycle caught on fire. He quickly jumped off the bike and within seconds it was completely engulfed in flames. Station Officer Kenneth Mortis of the National Fire Service says that they received a call of an accident and responded to find the motorcycle on fire.
We got call of the initial call said a vehicle accident. When we arrived on the scene, we realized that it was actually a motorcycle that was on fire. So we did our firefighting techniques, we extinguished the fires and we tried to gather some information as we went along throughout the course of the operation. We learned that the bike was being owned and driven at the time by a 38-year-old Belizean of Belize City address, Mr. Thomas, if I'm not mistaken. He was one of the motorcycle delivery guys for Atlantic Restaurant. And we learned that Mr. Thomas allegedly saw fire coming from the motorbike. And in an attempt to save his life, he jumped off the bike before it could have exploded. We're still trying to confirm the exact nature as to whether Mr. Thomas's bicycle was experiencing mechanical difficulties that he wasn't aware of. You know, those are sort of tidbits, fine details that we're still trying to work out. So we're hoping by tomorrow's end we can have a definitive cause as to what contributed to this mysterious case.
When we come back, Compol Chester Williams says the San Pedro Town Council runs afoul of the state of emergency regulations.
Improving life.
a second time in recent weeks, the San Pedro Town Council is at odds with the state of emergency regulations. Weeks ago, the Town Council announced measures to be undertaken on the island that went against the state of emergency. Today, Commissioner of Police Chester Williams took a firm stance against the council. With the relaxed regulations now in place, persons can travel to and from San Pedro Town. The council there, however, is screening persons and deciding who is permitted on the island and who is permitted to leave. Commissioner Williams says the Town Council and Mayor Guerrero have no such power and they must cease immediately.
I have had that talk with Mr. Noble. The SI did not empower the Town Council to be engaging in any screening. The SI empowered the security forces. And I've said to Mr. Noble, under no circumstances must any employee of the Town Council be with the police asking people questions as to where they're going, why they're going. They do not have that authority. What the information I had received was that in order for people to go to San Pedro or leave San Pedro, they need to get some permit or some written permission from the mayor. And I said to Mr. Noble, if that is happening, it must stop immediately because the SI did not make provision for that. I trust and hope that it is no longer occurring if it were occurring. And that is all I'm going to say about that for now.
Commissioner Chester Williams also took some time to speak on food vendors who sell items such as the all-time favorite tacos and barbecues. Vending is not allowed, but the new relaxed regulations are providing some sort of accommodations for vendors to sell from their houses. Williams says that the vendors can now operate at their residence, but within the curfew hours.
If it is that you're a street tacos vendor, you're not supposed to operate. So we have advised the tacos vendors, if you want, because we have to understand that people need to eat. So we cannot be too harsh on people. We have to have that humanitarian aspect in us. So we try to work around that and advise the tacos vendors to sell from a house. So you can sell from your house and then people come and pick up and go, as opposed to being on the street and sell. And we have seen that a number of the tacos vendors have adopted that method. But the opening hours, we must stick to what the law is. The law is 8 o'clock.
And while vendors are now given some leeway to operate from their house, you are allowed to have a social event at your house. But there is one big restriction, and that is that the social event is to only be enjoyed by members of the household. Commissioner Williams says that anyone who does not reside at the house cannot be allowed to participate in the social event. Failure to comply will result in an arrest and charges.
You can have a social event at your house, but you cannot invite nobody from outside the household. And a person asks a question under the thread. He said, "But Mr. Williams, I don't believe you because I don't see that in the SI." Well, it is in the SI that while, yes, you can have while you function at your house, you cannot have nobody from outside.
Guatemala and Mexico are registering an increasing number of positive COVID-19 cases. And while our borders are closed, the threat of a spill to this side of the border is still possible. The borders are porous and several persons have already been detained, arrested and charged for illegal entry. Commissioner of Police Chester Williams says that police officers, along with BDF soldiers, are patrolling all border hotspots to catch border jumpers.
We have boat patrols with the BDF in the Rio Hondo, and then we have mobile patrols with police and BDF in the Botes area and the Santa Cruz area. We also look at the Cala Creek area between Belize and Guatemala, as well as Arenal. Then we have Jalacte. So these are areas that we are trying as best as we can to man with a view to prevent or reduce the amount of persons who are coming over illegally. We do have a patrol in the Arenal area, a combined police and BDF patrol. And they have a vehicle that they use to ensure that they patrol the Arenal Road and patrol along the border areas. And so Our presence is there, but that is not to say that we are going to say conclusively that no illegal crossing is happening, because I've said before that the border area is so wide that we cannot cover it all, but we try our best to cover as much as we can. And I can tell you that we have intercepted a number of persons who had tried to come into the country illegally. And we want to ensure that continues so that the people who may want to do it may get the message that, you know what, if we go across the border to Belize, we'll be caught. And when we catch these persons, it is important that they be punished swiftly and severely, so that the rest get the message that, you know what, we cannot take no chance and go across to Belize, because if we're caught, the consequence is going to be X, Y, and Z. And that will serve as an effective deterrent for those who may wish to do so.
Statutory Instrument 72 was amended to also allow for archaeological sites to open in an effort to encourage domestic tourism. This will permit Belizeans to travel across the country to undertake touristic activity while giving tour operators the opportunity to return to work. Attorney General Michael Perrafeet says that the state of emergency regulations must be adhered to in respect of the 6 feet physical distancing and the wearing of face coverings.
So the archaeological sites and the places we go on to see, how Chan Marine Reserve, Shark Real, and those places, open again and you can go to them. And a spin-off for that is that now tour operators can now operate to take people in those areas. Let me repeat, social distancing is mandatory and still in effect. Wear your mask if you're not in the water. So that remains.
Coming up after the break, more persons are charged for not adhering to the state of emergency.
In these challenging times, the one
Limited, a port with a global perspective.
2 persons charged jointly in connection with the discovery of 16 pounds of marijuana today appeared in the Belize City Magistrates Court, where they were granted bail and met bail in the sum of $5,000 each, plus one surety of the same amount. Dale Zaragoza and Sharon Thompson are charged with possession of a controlled drug with intent to supply to another after a search of their residence at mile 2.5 on the George Price Highway last Thursday resulted in the discovery of the weed. The prosecution did not object to bail, and attorney Oscar Salgado was successful in attaining bail for the couple. Zaragoza and Thompson are to return to court on July 16th. Also in the magistrate's court, a man who is accused of attacking and stabbing another man last month was charged and arraigned with dangerous harm. But he is home tonight because Mark Gentle was granted and met bail. The charge against Gentle follows an incident shortly on the evening of April 30th, which left Lorenzo Garbutt with a stab wound to the lower right side of the back. Garbutt told police that he was walking through Cadle's Alley towards his house on Victoria Street, but as he reached a junction, Gentle, whom he has known for the past 9 years, attacked him with a knife and inflicted the stab wound. Gentle's bail was given on the condition that he does not interfere with the complainant. The case was adjourned to July 17th. For more than a month now, Belize has not reported any new COVID-19 cases, but a state of emergency remains in place until June, and a curfew is in place from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. For children, they cannot be out between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Commissioner of Police Chester Williams shared that more than 1,300 persons have been arrested since March for violating the law, including not wearing masks and illegally entering the country. Minister of National Security Michael Parafit said that 48 were detained and charged overnight.
I can't believe I got the report. 48 people last night broke curfew. 48 people in the country did not respect the curfew. I mean, come on. We need to work with each other. We don't want to go back to the days when we were extra strict. But if we have to, we will.
How many people have been charged so far in relation to state of emergency violations?
It's around 1,300.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's over the course of what, about 6 weeks, 2 months, or something to that?
Since the 24th of March.
A complaint was made to Commissioner of Police Chester Williams during his time on Ask the Experts today. According to the complainant, who is a Benqueviejo resident, plainclothes officers on patrol seem to have been offended after the complainant requested information from them. Now, the commissioner has reiterated several times that the public has every right to request information from a police officer on duty. One of those requests is identification, such as a name and badge number.
The fact that we're not having much crime being committed, we try to use the detectives in such a way that we can use them to prevent crime from occurring as well. So that's one of the reasons why they might see these officers in plain clothes. In terms of not having an ID, I don't know why is that. I know for a fact, though, that our ID machine had spoiled. We have ordered a new one, but because of this pandemic, we have not been able to get it. And I can say that the machine is a very costly one, but it is needed, and so we have gone ahead and ordered it. So hopefully we're getting that machine very shortly.
The Compol also said that at checkpoints, the officers should not touch the IDs from the drivers. And that's the news. Don't forget that tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at News 5 Live. I'm Marlene Cuellar. Thanks for joining us, and from all of us here at News 5, please remember to wash your hands, keep your social distance, stay home, and stay safe. Good night.